Hello, and welcome to another episode of Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannan. What's the deal with manipulators? Manipulators are really the worst people. Uh, they prey on people's emotions to get what they want. And they do it in the sneakiest fashion possible, getting you to believe that it was your own idea. And so the essential goal of a manipulator is to get you to do what they want without you even knowing that it's really their idea, not yours. This sort of behavior is fundamentally dishonest. It's fraudulent. It's deceitful. It's often perpetrated by arrogant, narcissistic individuals who think they can outsmart people. And at its fundamental core, manipulation is immoral. And the reason for that is the manipulator wants to assert their will on a given situation or a given person. They're not concerned about God's will. They're concerned about their own will. So manipulators are fundamentally selfish, evil people. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's what they are. So, a Christian has a responsibility to be honest and to say yes when they mean yes and no when they mean no. I did a whole video on Christian honesty that you should look at. The manipulator is really the devil. The devil, of course, is a great manipulator. And there's a reason for that. It's a reason manipulation is associated with evil, because it's evil. You can watch soap operas, for instance, and you'll see all sorts of people manipulating other people. And that sort of constant unethical, immoral behavior, that's what keeps soap operas interesting, and people watch them because they want to see how maybe some evil person on the program is trying to manipulate the good person on the program. So you'll see a lot of manipulative tactics used in things like soap operas. But manipulators are real. I mean, there are a lot of people that you will meet in your life who are best described as evil manipulators. And there are defenses you can take against these people. The first defense you should take is avoid them. Stay away from them. Get them out of your life. These sort of evil manipulators are not good for you. They're evil people. Why would you want to invite that sort of evil into your life? And if it is in your life, try to get it out of your life or minimize their impact on your life. They're not good people to have around, period. They're just, they're evil people. And the last thing you want to do is start behaving like them. That'll make you evil too. So get them out of your life, first defense. Second defense is manipulators use primarily people's emotions to get those people to do what they want. And the reason for that is emotions don't have a very high IQ. They're dumb. Emotions just do what they do and motivate you to do something, but it may not be a really good reason for doing that. Emotions can be very stupid. Obviously, human beings need emotions to motivate them to do anything. But if you rely primarily on emotional thinking or emotional responses to situations, then you make yourself highly susceptible to manipulation. Because if a manipulator can manipulate your emotion's stupid, which means the manipulator can get you to do what he or she wants you to do quite easily because you have an emotional response that makes you do it, and you're following that. And you're being dumb. Instead of doing what you want to do or what God wants you to do, you're doing what the manipulator wants you to do. And that's dumb. And that's why manipulators use emotions to get you to do what they want, because emotions are generally dumb. So, another defense against manipulation is to be smarter about things. And that means logical, rational, think things through. Don't decide things emotionally and reflexively and quickly in emotional terms. Learn to constrain your emotions and keep them chained up most of the time, so that your logic and reasoning has a chance to inform you about what you should do. So you need to be disciplined. You got to discipline those emotions. Otherwise, you're easy prey to manipulators. Another thing you do is, if you're dealing with a manipulator and you know it, you can make decisions based on a coin flip. Really. So decide things randomly with them and confuse them. So they don't know how to predict what you're going to do, because you don't know what you're going to do because you're flipping a coin to figure out what you're going to do. You can play games with manipulators that way and drive them bananas, because you don't know what you're going to do or why you're going to do it. Well, how can you manipulate somebody who's deciding things randomly on a coin flip, right? You can't. So that's a technique you can use. Another thing, don't be intimidated. Manipulators use emotion sometimes to intimidate you into doing what they want. And the more you can resist being intimidated, and the more courage you have, the less susceptible you are to bullying tactics by manipulators. Often manipulators know your weakness, or they know something that you want, and they will use that against you. And to the extent that you could figure out a way that you don't need that thing anymore, or you limit your need for such a thing, then you limit the effect that they can have in manipulating you, because you just don't need it as much. You can do without. So, and finally, a big defense against manipulation is to know what the manipulations are. And there are enormous numbers of manipulative techniques that people use. And I can't possibly tell you all those techniques, frankly, because I don't know them all. And I'm sure there are new ones being invented every day. So I'm just trying to make sure that you understand that this is going on in the world. There are manipulators, and they do use these tricks and techniques to get you to think that their idea is really your idea. No better way to get somebody to get on board to your idea than to make them think it's their idea. Okay, so what are some of these manipulative tricks? And there's a lot. There's a lot of them. The prototypical manipulator is the used car salesman. Watch out for used car salesmen. They have all sorts of emotional tricks to try to get you to buy that car. Marketers, salespeople, they're almost professional manipulators. So if you're dealing with that sort of person, watch out. But plenty of other people use manipulation too. Well, a classic manipulation is the bait and switch. Bait and switch. That's where you first bait someone with what they want, but when they discover that what they want is not available, or you can pressure them to consider something similar, thereby switching the item. Very classic used car salesman, bait and switch. Another one is the Pavlovian dog. It's classical psychological conditioning. And that basically involves getting someone to associate a reward with some arbitrary thing that you want them to do. So they get that association between reward and the thing you want them to do. And then when you give them a reward, they do the thing you want them to do, even if they really don't want to do the thing you want them to do. That's classical conditioning. You can help advance someone's goals to get them to do you a favor. Politicians do this all the time. So, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's a manipulation. You can ask for favors in a social setting rather than a business setting, which makes people more inclined to act like a friend rather than a business rival. So, if it's some business proposition, take them outside of a business environment. Take them to lunch or a restaurant or some social setting. That way they're more likely to treat you like a friend than a business rival, because you put them in a social setting, so they're conditioned to behave differently in a social setting, more friendly. So you put them in a more friendly environment, makes them more friendly towards whatever proposition you have. That's a manipulation. Very common. Focus on what your bargaining partner is gaining, not on what they're losing. So just show them, the good things. Tell them about the good things and hide or ignore the bad things. You can mimic people's body language to get them to like you. So, however their body language is at the time, whether it's like this or something, you can do the same thing while you're talking to them and mimic their body language, and it makes them more likely to like you. Speak quickly to get an argument opponent to agree with you. Get those terms out real quick, and they're more likely to agree with you. Ask people for favors when they're tired to get them to cooperate. So you just wear them down. Used car salesmen do this all the time. They keep you in the office for an hour before they finally get to the details of the deal, because they're purposely wearing you down, making you tired. So you're willing to just sign on the dotted line, right? Because you're tired and you want to leave. You don't agree to anything. That's a manipulation. Scare people to get them to give you what you need. Scare them. Bullying, scare tactics, put people in fear to make them more responsive or to give them what you want. I did a whole video on management by intimidation. And that sort of management, it's a manipulation. It's scaring people, intimidating people into getting them to work harder and longer and be more responsive. It's a manipulation. It's evil. It's an evil practice. It's not good management, but it's used a lot. Confuse people to get them to comply with your request. People don't want to admit that they don't understand things, so they're likely to agree with you. Nod your head. When people nod while listening to something, they are more likely to agree with it. So if you nod while speaking, the other person may begin to nod as well and start to agree with you without even knowing it. Isn't that right, Johnny? Yes. Johnny's like, he's nodding his head, so now he's going to agree with you. Even if you asked him 5 minutes beforehand, he'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Uh, use people's names, their first names, when talking to them. People, there's nothing people like to hear more than their name. They love their name, so it makes them feel more positive about the person who's using their name. Simple manipulation. Repeat things back to people. This sort of reflective listening makes people open up and display more emotion. So when people are talking to you about blah, 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 you just talk back to them and basically say the same thing they just told you. You're reflecting back what they just said. And that opens people up. It makes people think you're listening or you understand them because you're just repeating what they said to you. You may not understand it all, but it makes them feel better. They open up and this displays emotion. They're going to feel better about you. There's the door in the face technique. First, make a large request that the other person will most likely turn down, after which you make a more reasonable request the person will probably accept because the person feels like they owe the person who made the request. So, start with asking what you don't want, but it's so big that when you come up with the next request, which is what you really want, they're more likely to give it to you because you're not, they feel, well, I didn't go with their first request, so I'll give them the second one. It's manipulation. There's also a common bargaining manipulation where the first person who mentions a price is the loser because if you mention a price, you've limited yourself. So you try to get the other person to give the price, and that way you work off of that. So if you had another price in mind, which would have been much more beneficial to that person, at least you didn't give it away to them, so they don't know that. And now you're working with their price, which is much more acceptable to you. That's a manipulation. There's the free sample manipulation. You ever go, the store and they're offering a free sample, a little piece of cheese and cracker or something like that. Well, the point of that is not so that you can taste the product and say, oh, this is really good. No, the point of that is to make you feel guilty so that you buy the product. Oh, you guys gave me a little tiny piece of this product, and now I feel as if, I have to go buy a large quantity of this product because you just gave me a tiny little piece of it, so I have to pay you back. Very common manipulation by merchants. Another manipulation is simply smiling before talking. Smiling. It instantly makes the other person feel comfortable and at ease. So salespeople are always smiling. Always smiling. Why? Because they want you to feel comfortable and at ease. It's a fake smile. Nothing real about it. Not genuine in the least bit. But they're practiced at smiling. And you can see a lot. You can tell if these smiles are fake. Just look at the smile. See if it's real or not. And if it's a salesperson, you can tell, this is a fake smile. And look at other people when they smile to you. See how, is that a real smile or is that fake? If it's a fake smile, then you're being manipulated subtly. It's easy to fake smile. So people use that one a lot. Flattery. Nice words and compliments make us feel good and more willing to do what the other person wants. That's a age-old manipulation, flattery. The flatterer doesn't really believe anything they're saying, but because you like the nice words, you tend to believe it, especially if it's about you. So they feed you what you want to hear. It makes you more likely to do what they want. Flattery. Some people manipulate by playing the victim. They'll use their helplessness and your guilt to make you do what they want. So they give off a sense that their fate is in your hands. So that you feel guilty that if you don't do what they're asking you to do, it's your fault that fate is going to deal them a bad deal. It's a manipulation. Uh, Another manipulation is to inspire fear, then relief. This is sort of the good cop, bad cop manipulation that the police use. First, make a person fear the worst, and then be relieved when that doesn't happen, and then be happy enough to grant you whatever you want. It's a good cop, bad cop. The bad cop's threatening you. Oh, I'm going to go to jail. And then the good cop comes in and says, don't pay attention to him. He's a little crazy. We're not going to put you in jail. Just tell us the names of the accomplices in the crime. You won't go to jail. It's manipulation. Cops, police officers, are well versed in manipulation because they're using that to get confessions and information about crimes. So they know a lot of them. Eye contact is a very simple manipulation. Looking someone in the eye gives instant likability and a boost. And you just maintain a 60-40 eye contact ratio, which draws the line between confident and creepy. So you're looking at them, you're looking them straight in the eye for 60% of the time, and then 40% of the time you're looking away a little bit so that you don't seem creepy. But eye contact is a manipulation too. Social exchange. You provide another with a tangible or psychological reward, and then the other will feel pressure or guilt to comply with your request. So give them something, they feel pressure to give you something back. And maybe what you give them is nothing compared to what you're asking. But it's a psychological conditioned response or guilt. And it's a manipulation, and it might work. The foot in the door technique. This is a classic. Someone asks you to do a very small and easy request, and then they follow it up with the real request. By getting you to say yes to the easy request, you're more likely to say yes to the second one. So they're creating a relationship with you because you did what they asked the first time, or you said yes the first time. And because now there's this relationship, you're more likely to comply with the second request. So this might be like, somebody's walking by. Hey, buddy, do you have the time? Yeah, sure. The time is blah, blah, blah. Easy request to comply with. Oh, by the way, I'm soliciting donations for my organization. Do you think you could give $1? So it created a relationship with you by asking you what the time was. You gave him the response. Now you're more likely to give him $1. There's another manipulation called gaslighting. It's a very nasty and evil manipulation, but people do it. And gaslighting basically is you manipulate another person into doubting their own sanity or reality. So basically, you're trying to drive them crazy, but you don't admit that that's what you're trying to do to them. And humans have a tendency to look to the person that will help them feel more stable, and in this case, it's the gaslighter. So they try to drive you crazy on purpose, deny that they're trying to drive you crazy, and then become the source for you to know what's real and what is not real, your sane friend. And then you rely on them, and then you do what they want. This is a terrible technique. This is a horrifying technique. But it is done. Gaslighting. Gaslighters are some of the most evil people there are. Another manipulation is urgency and alarm in certain situations. So they make us feel a sense of urgency and panic, so that we might do what they want. Uh, missing out on the golden opportunity. Or like the used car salesman. Well, you don't buy that car today, it may not be here tomorrow. Don't miss out on this golden opportunity. So you create an urgency and panic. It's that emotional panic that they're using to get you to do whatever it is they want. Some people use helplessness and ignorance as a manipulation. So, they'll say something like, well, you're so smarter and better than me. I need you to do this because I'm helpless and I don't know what I'm doing. Well, they could go through the effort to be less helpless and find out what to do, but they don't want that's too much work for them. They'd much rather have you do it. So they play, helpless and ignorant, please. I need you to, you're so much better than me, you're smarter. I need you to do this. Another manipulation is the inconvenient conversation. So you ask somebody for something when they are in a rush to get out. So that they are likely to agree to it, because they'll agree to anything just to get out. So let's say, it's 4:59 and everybody's leaving the office and you're rushing to get out the door, and then your boss comes over and says, oh, could you do X, Y, Z? And you're like, oh, I got to get out. It's fine. I got to get out. I don't want to work anymore today. Yeah, sure. So you just got manipulated into doing something because it was an inconvenient conversation that you just wanted to end there. So you paid a much higher price than you should have to get out of the conversation. That's a manipulation. Another manipulation is to make an unusual request before your real request. So you establish that relationship before they turn you down. So you might say something weird like, hey, can you help me tie my shoe? My back hurts. And they help you tie your shoe. And you've created a relationship with this person because they helped you tie your shoe. And then you make your real request, which they're less likely to turn down because now they're in this relationship with you. Another manipulation is to get someone the person trusts as an authority to suggest to them what you want that person to do. So if you know this person isn't going to do what you ask or isn't going to listen to you, then you get somebody that they will listen to or they do have respect for to ask them to do the same thing. But don't mention that you were the one who put them up to asking you. Okay, that's a very common manipulation. Another manipulation is you can save somebody from supposedly a great harm, which you basically set up as a farce to gain their loyalty and willingness to do your bidding. Oh, I saved you from that. If it wasn't for me, this would have happened to you. So, you have to do what I ask you to do. You owe me. You owe me. That's a manipulation too. People have a tendency to believe what they hear for the first time. So if you're the first person to ever say something to somebody or explain something to somebody, you're the first supposed expert that they've ever encountered on this issue, they're going to tend to believe everything you have to say because they don't have any information in their head that could contradict you. And they're willing to absorb the information, so they tend to believe everything you say. And you could be telling them a bunch of nonsense, but because they've never heard of it before and they have nothing to contradict you, they tend to believe you. So if you're that first person to explain something to somebody, that's another manipulation. You get that sort of instant credibility with them, even if what you're saying is false, not true. Maybe it's even lies. Similar to that, people tend to believe what they overhear. Oh, it must be true because I heard it, in the other room when they were talking. Must be true, because they didn't know I was there. Must be true because they knew, because I wasn't there. So if I was there, they would say something else. So it must be true. Spying. If you spied on somebody, you spied on somebody and you found something out, you're going to tend to believe that that's true. Because why not? Because you got the information because you were spying, right? So you think that's true. Well, that might be the case, but it also might be the case that the other people knew that you were spying on them. So they fed you some nonsense or some lie because they knew you were going to believe it because you were spying on them. You see that sort of manipulation in soap operas a lot. If somebody just doesn't want you around anymore, or doesn't want to associate with you anymore, they may try to manipulate you to get you not to like them, so that you leave them alone. So they may do something or appear to have done something despicable or immoral in your eyes, even though it was all play acting or nonsense, just to make you think that they're that sort of person, so you leave them alone. That's a manipulation. You can chance meetings are another manipulation. You get some person to have a chance meeting with somebody you've already set up to be there and to talk to them, so that the person that person who has this chance meeting thinks it's their idea, that everything's coming from them, and therefore they're more likely to do it. When the reality is you orchestrated this chance meeting the whole time, but they don't know about it. And the person that they met with doesn't spill the beans and tell them that it was really your idea. So chance meetings, that's another manipulation. Another manipulation is asking for something right before you're supposed to pay somebody some money. This is a form of leverage. Basically, it's saying, if you want me to pay you, then do what I want. Even if you have to pay him anyway. If you're legally obligated to pay him, you ask your favor right before you have to pay, right before you pay him. It's because you have some leverage, and they're more likely to do what you ask. Leverage. People can make other people believe they have more leverage than they really do. That's a manipulation. They could, name drop or use expensive vehicles and clothing to make them appear wealthy. Or they could just outright lie about things to make it appear as if they have a lot more leverage than they really do. So you have this false impression of leverage or more leverage, and you're more likely to do what they want, even though they concocted the whole thing. You could put pressure on somebody to do something where you have a group of supporters with you. It is easier to say no to one person than to many people. That's a manipulation. You got a bunch of people to say the same thing or to support you as a group when you confront this other person you're trying to manipulate. So that group dynamic, that group pressure, peer pressure, bullying tactics too. That's a manipulation to get people to do what you want. Another manipulation is simply to use your physical presence to put pressure on someone. Because it is easier to say no to someone, let's say over the phone or on an email, than it is to say no to a person face to face. So it's much harder to say, not to do what somebody wants when they're asking you face to face, because there's a pressure. There's a social pressure or a peer pressure or just a physical presence pressure. When you're talking to somebody face to face, then if it's easy for them to ignore you, like an email or a message of some sort. People manipulate others into trying to get them to like them by making it appear as if you have something in common, some sort of connection. People do this constantly, always looking for connections commonalities between you and them. Oh, you know this person, I know this person. Oh, you go there, I go there. Oh, you like that team, I like that team. Those sorts of connections they use. It's a manipulation. It's to get you to like them, so you're more likely to do what they want. Very, very common manipulation. Another manipulation is simply spreading a lie or a half-truth about somebody to get other people to turn against them. That's called backstabbing, really. But you don't let them know that you're spreading this lie or half-truth, but you do, and you use the grapevine to spread it, or you spread it to other people, and these other people, if they're dumb enough, they believe it. And the next thing you know, a bunch of people are turning against you, and you don't know why. Well, it's because the manipulator, the backstabber, was orchestrating this the whole time. Lying, spreading half-truths. That's a very common manipulation. Another one is when someone realizes that a free option simply is not going to get the job done, then the manipulator presents them with another option that will work, but at a price. At a price. This is the upgrade at a price manipulation. Oh, you like that? You like the little free service I gave you? Well, that's not going to do the whole job for you. If you want the whole job done, then you got to get the upgrade, but that's going to cost you. People tend to agree with the suggestion of a person they trust. So a manipulator can get that trusted person to suggest something to you, and you're going to believe it. Another manipulation is to get someone to agree with your plan by telling them that it serves a good purpose. Convince them that, there's a good reason for this. They're more likely to agree to it, even if that's not really the reason, or if the good thing is not actually going to happen. The road to hell is paved with good intentions for a reason. You can give a false impression or allow a positive incorrect assumption to persist without contradicting it. You know somebody's under a misimpression, but you use that misimpression to your advantage as a manipulator, and you don't correct it. You can also another manipulation is to confuse someone's concentration or positive mental state by having the person really dislikes, present during the event or a meeting. You know somebody doesn't like so-and-so, and you want to confuse that person or upset them emotionally, so bring that person along. And that the person's presence is going to have an effect on the person you're trying to manipulate. Manipulators do this. A big manipulation is just lying. Just flat out lying. A lie told often enough becomes the truth. Your supporters will likely spread the lie with little guilt. And most people aren't that careful in discerning the truth. So they are likely to believe what every other person who believes your lie believes. It's a very basic sort of manipulation. Use someone else's concern with another to get them in an emotional state to do what you want. Example, they can get you to buy an overpriced car because your daughter loves it. So, if they can't find a weakness in you, maybe they can find a weakness in one of your friends or loved ones that they can exploit against you as a manipulation. Um, Especially if it's children. Oftentimes children don't have the experience to resist manipulators and don't understand that manipulators are trying to force their will on them. And then the manipulator has an easy time with the child, or perhaps some other, maybe a spouse or some other friend who just isn't as skeptical about these sorts of things, these sorts of people. And then they get them to buy whatever it is they're selling, and then that person has influence on you. And then they can influence you in getting you to do it. So that's a pretty extensive list of manipulations. And there's more. There's a lot more that I haven't mentioned. And you can go on the internet and find lists of ways to manipulate people and different tactics people use. And you got to be aware that there are a lot of immoral people, evil people who manipulate others. No doubt about it. And they may not even think they're being evil. They may think, well, this is just how I get things done. I'm being smarter because I can get somebody to do what I want them to do. So I'm superior in some sense. I'm more effective at getting things done. But they're evil because they're talking about getting their own will done, not God's will. Their own will. That's the definition of selfishness. And when you're doing your own will and not God's will, that's the definition of evil. So these are evil people, whether they know it, whether they really understand they're evil or not. And there's a good chance maybe they don't understand how evil they really are. But they are. They're very evil. Stay away from these people. These people are not honest. They don't understand Christianity at all. And they're very harmful. They can be very effective in getting things done, but it's usually only what they want, not what you want. And they can be extremely destructive, these people. Learn how people can manipulate you so you can avoid that from happening, and try to avoid these manipulators. Keep them off your island if you can. They only cause trouble for you, generally speaking. All right, so I guess that's it for manipulators. Just be warned. Be warned. There are a lot of manipulators out there. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's manipulating you. No. Some people are really, really good at manipulating, and other people are honest, and they don't manipulate much, if at all. Those are the good people. And you'll be able to tell the difference with some understanding of what manipulation is, who the good people are, and who the evil, rotten people are, the used car salesmen of the world. Oh, man. Stay away from those people. You may have to go on the car lot to buy the car, but don't stay there very long. Get in, get your car, and get out. Stay away from these people. They are trouble. Big trouble. All right. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I'll address them below, or maybe I'll do a future video on them, addressing them. And please press the subscribe button. I appreciate it. All right, take care.